Peace. Good evening, my peoples. I'd like to welcome you back to another edition of the Foul Playland. As always, I am Sir Foul Player of Brooklyn, NYC. Making this special report, if you will, or impromptu stream. I haven't been coming on lately, but I felt it was necessary to come on because this is a topic that's right up my alley. In spite of that, I mean, 1,000 things must have happened since I last came on a couple months ago, and I'm pretty, and that's how life has been since 2020 for the most part, and it's only gonna ramp up even more. Um, and I'm not saying this because of the Eric Adams or the Puffy case necessarily. I'm just saying that seemingly the tides have turned in terms of like the people that are panicking in the entertainment industry, in politics. It seems like more of them are panicking now, whereas just a year ago it seemed like the other side of the political coin was chasing down Mr. T with a vengeance and tripping him up in court, making up these phony cases against him. None of them really are sticking, but now in the scene of the crime, in terms of New York, you have Puffy, who's based out of New York. I mean, he's not getting tried in New York. He didn't get raided in New York, from what I know. But Puffy, who is interrelated with New York politics and politics here domestically in America, with being involved with the Rock the Vote campaign since the mid 90s. I'm not sure if you guys recall, but the Rock the Vote campaign was a campaign that was spearheaded, if not mascotted, by Puff Daddy. And um, I'll get more into the details of that later from what I remember, too. I'm not saying I did a ton of research for to make this video, but I'm not gonna front on myself or hold myself to a standard that a lot of people on YouTube aren't upholding, particularly people that defend liberal principles here on YouTube. Of the ones I listen to, by and large, they spout off a lot of stuff really without researching, and a lot of them, although they may be somewhat learned, but I am also learned. I feel, and I guess the burden of proof is on you to doubt what I'm saying if you feel I'm wrong, ultimately. But a lot of times if you happen to defend something that even sounds associated with Mr. T, it seems like the burden of proof is on you. Well, I think in 2024 that standard should be flipped. Liberals have been wrong by and large for the most part. Everybody on the TV has been wrong by and large for the most part since 2020. Since they recommended you drink that tea in 2020, mandated that you drink that tea, they've been wrong every step of the way. So cut the kids some slack, if you will. At the end of the day, I mean, everybody's lying to you, and it's up to you to disseminate, if you will. Get it? Having said all that, but then another New York political figure, and Eric Adams. Eric Adams, if you guys don't know, Eric Adams was a cop in his past life, and he went from being a cop to not. I don't think he had a high-ranking position in the cop, if I remember correctly, but he was a political mover and shaker during his time with the police. From people I knew that knew him while he was a cop. Again, too, I know a lot of people in New York. I'm not fronting. Do with that if you will. Personally, I mean, I've been going out since I was before 18. I went to adult clubs before I was 18 officially. Going out to clubs, I mean, since I stopped going out in 2020. I mean, because it's just not fun no more. And on top of that, too, when I stopped going out, to be frank, or like around the time that I was finishing going out, like 2019, 2018, 2020, when I would go out, the propensity for a sausage fest was a lot higher for some reason. So it just took the life out of me. Like, why would I even want to go out like with my wife and whatnot when I may be going into a sausage calamity? And that seems to be happening a lot, like when I was going out. And that's not just in New York too. I mean, I go out all over the place. If I go to a city, I mean, that was my habit. If I would go to a city, and I go to cities all the time, especially before. I would just look for a spot that whether that be Miami, that could be Boston, that could be you name it. Wherever I went, I go out. But in New York City, I mean, ramped that up 100 times because I was going out in New York since I was a youngster. In addition to that, I've been paying attention to domestic politics, New York City politics, international politics. Since I mean, I'm not saying I'm an expert at this shit, but I've been in tune with this shit since I was a kid. I mean, I've been having my ear perked up to the stuff since I was young, and I'm not like, and I'm 40, or older than 40 now. Um, so I mean, I'm not just spouting off here. I mean, I'm giving you my best take. If I'm wrong, I mean, it's up to you to prove it, and let me know if I'm wrong. But moving on, with the Eric Adams situation, before as a cop, he was just a regular detective, if I remember correctly, for the bulk of his career. Then somehow, I'm not sure what political position he ended up getting afterwards. I'm pretty sure it might have been a city councilman, but this is all in Brooklyn. Like this wasn't happening in uh, where he was this big name throughout the city, with the exception of maybe glad handing, trying to make some connections prior to his rise. I mean, he may have known a ton of people, yeah, but he at the end, if he had a political position after his time with the NYPD, it was more likely than not as a city councilman. I'm not sure; don't quote me on that. But after that, he ended up becoming the Brooklyn borough president, which every borough in New York, Brooklyn, Manhattan, Staten Island, Queens, the Bronx, has a borough president. That position honestly doesn't really run anything. If there's like a graduation within one of those boroughs, the borough president, if it's like a college in that borough, like when my wife graduated in Brooklyn, the Brooklyn borough president, forgot his name, Goldowitz, some shit. The one that was before Eric Adams showed up to her graduation, and it was at a community college. But that position, for the most part, is largely ceremonial. Like they don't really enact much because the mayor, at the end of the day, is the one who really runs things in the city, even down to the borough level. And the boroughs, I mean, are humongous. So I mean, they really leave it up to the mayor, like to run the city. But before that, again, he had this position as the Brooklyn borough president prior to becoming the mayor. Every step of the way, I mean, like even here in New York, I mean, he came after Bill de Blasio. Bill de Blasio was the mayor before the pandemic and during the pandemic for the most part. And a lot of people were shitting on de Blasio and were done with him just on the basis of they really weren't impressed with him as a politician. And Bill de Blasio, the prior to Eric Adams, I've known of him prior to as well because of his political runnings. His neighborhood is right next to the neighborhood I grew up in. The neighborhood that he lives in is Park Slope, and I grew up in the neighborhood next to it. I know a lot of people that know him too and that don't like him before he was the mayor. But Adams inherited, in large part, a lot of de Blasio's New York City. But they're one and the same in large part too. I mean, they're just very. It's not like the pendulum swung conservative to liberal, conservative to liberal. As far as New York City's mayors go, especially lately, it just seemed like it's gone from liberal to more liberal to more liberal to more liberal. And Eric Adams was the last stop in that liberal totem pole as far as mayors go in New York City. He ranked highest. Eric Adams, when 2020 era rolled around, Eric Adams' policies were mirroring and parroting a lot of Joe Biden's policies. Uh, Joe Biden seemingly wanted more migrants into the country by the moves he made as far as stopping the Remain in Mexico policy, as far as stopping border enforcement, similar to how Trump had it. Whatever conditions that Mr. T had that Biden removed at the border, whatever conditions that Mr. T left at the border, that Biden removed at the border enabled a ton more migrants to come into the country. A lot of people, when it came to the migrant conversation, if you guys don't remember, far away in 2020, the migrant conversation back then and even now was whether we should let them in or not let them in. At that time, there weren't a ton of migrants, but at that time, the Eric Adams of New York City mayor, his owner, was signaling that he would like to make New York City, prior to a large migration wave happening, he signaled that he would like to make New York City into a sanctuary city, meaning that his city, New York City, would take any immigrants that came into that city and house them and feed them and shelter them. That it was the requirement of the city. The requirement of the city at that time was that they would house, feed, and shelter anybody who was in distress or homeless. They superimposed that standard to apply to migrants that weren't even in New York City yet. So he basically signaled that should migrants arrive in New York City in any future date, that he was willing to house them and feed them, and that they would be basically a tribute to his community. They would add vibrancy to New York City. Fast forward a few years later, last year, I believe in July, the migrant situation was the biggest political issue in terms of New York City. Things started getting really hot for Eric Adams just because the migrant issue. There was no vanilla coding the migrant issue any longer. Some people were trying to dress it up as it's only a few hundred in a couple of schools. It's only a few hundred in Randall's Island. It's only a few hundred in a part of Governor's Island. It's only a few thousand in Fort Bennett Field. But after a while, like those migrants started getting into the school systems, and people weren't cool with the migrants entering to a already crowded school system in these black schools that are in New York City, in Harlem, and in the Bronx, and these Latino schools in New York City that already have classes with small classrooms and 38 students. You know, you couldn't fit more people there, but Eric Adams gave the indication that should more people come by way of migrants, that he would gladly accept them. He did, and it created a political atomic bomb for him as far as his time as the mayor has gone. There's no hiding it. And last year, he started publicly saying that the border policy is what was bringing that migrant wave into New York, that it wasn't anything that he's doing, that he can't really stop them from being busting. And at some point, he had to admit that the migrant problem was a federal problem, was a Joe Biden problem, and that the conditions that Joe Biden and the government had placed on New York City and Eric Adams by allowing migrants to come in were ultimately having those migrants end up in New York City, creating a problem for him. As soon as Eric Adams opened his mouth last year, I believe it was in July, he was en route to go to Washington, D.C., along with the mayor of Chicago, if I remember correctly, and the mayor of another large city that has a migrant crisis. While he was en route to that flight to D.C. to meet with the president and discuss that, his aide, I'm not sure what her name is, what her offices were raided, and this was last July. After that, it's been all hell. It's not really all hell, because a lot of these cases that are coming down in New York City are basically people within not just the Eric Adams sphere. These are people that are within the New York City political sphere, of which Eric Adams is a fucking nobody. At the end, if anybody tells you that Eric Adams runs anything in New York City besides being a mascot for sanctuary cities and allowing a wave of migrants to come in, they're full of shit. Eric Adams probably didn't appoint many people in that cabinet. Look at the color of the cabinet. Everybody you see that's outwardly in the New York City cabinet, by and large, is Black and Latino. The people that really run things, that have these more jobs that really control budgets on a day-to-day level, don't look like that. So stop fronting like this is not no woke. Like when it comes down to money scheming, which is happening in New York, they don't go for DEI hires. the DEI hires, like you see with Eric Adams' homeboy Caban, the Puerto Rican um, New York Police Department commissioner, whose brother just got yammed up for racketeering, basically going to Black and Latino businesses that, these are guys that are like you and I, that if they want to start a business, they have to sacrifice everything to make that happen. They had to take loans out against their house. So what our New York City Police Department Commissioner Caban was doing, his brother was doing on behalf of him, more likely than not, was that he was going around to these small Black and Latin businesses and letting them know that they were on the verge of being shut down by whatever city agency, you name them, and that he could basically bring money that they would pay to the right people so that their problems could go away. This has been exposed in New York City here for the past couple months. Every couple of days, there's a story on the news here locally of some Black or Latin business owner showing text coming directly from NYPD Commissioner Caban's brother, um, basically trying to squeeze them. Now, that's what these DEI hires, at the end of the day, these puppets that they put in front of us and make it seem like they're one of us, that's what they get down to. At the end of the day, not that they all get down to it, but when you get unqualified people into a position, it's basically another form of corruption. And when they get into a position that they don't deserve, a lot of times, like in the cases of most of the people that are in liberal politics in America nowadays, they're adamantly corrupt. They're one step away from the most corrupt shit you could think of. And does this Eric Adams and Puff Daddy case scratch part of that surface? Some people may not say so. I think so, and I'll get into that in a minute. But if you don't think that the Puffy case has national implication, I mean, you must be seriously smoking. But I mean, because everybody's talking about it in the sense of Puffy was next to this person of political intrigue and partying. Does Puffy have any info on this person? Puffy was next to this big celebrity. Does Puffy have any info on this person? That's what all the conversations are becoming now. Eric Adams, on the other hand, he's not known on a national scale much. As far as mayors go, he's one of the top known mayors, just on the basis that he was willing to do that sanctuary city crap, but also on the basis that he's a minority and they were really pumping him out there. Eric Adams was the darling of the DNC. I mentioned this on another channel, Reggie Owens and more. If you could, please subscribe to Boxing Conversations with Reggie Owens. But I was saying that on that channel that damn, I forgot the point I was making. Oh, where's the proof that they are connected? Adams and Knight was unsealed, no mention of Diddy. No, I'm not saying they're connected of yet, but I'm drawing a picture. I'm illustrating a picture, Mr. Mark Nash. Thank you for coming through as well. The picture that I'm painting is that, again, Eric Adams was a couple months ago one of the darlings of the DNC, just because of the plans that he was willing to act out. He was willing to look the other way when it comes to the migrant problem in his little city. New York City is a tiny city, and he was willing to house those migrants as if they were homeless New Yorkers. Homeless New Yorkers, by the New York law, are supposed to be housed, sheltered, and fed. So he basically told people that are not from New York, from other countries, come into these Black communities within New York, and I'll feed and house and shelter you guys. What he failed to mention was that New York City at that time, and now and into the near future, if things keep going the way they're going, is that we already had a housing crisis and a shelter crisis and a budget crisis. So it was really foolish of him to make that move. And I mean, honestly, it really can't be debated at this juncture. And he's not even being rolled up for that. And although one thing I will say, and I mentioned this on Reggie Owens' channel yesterday, is that one of the people that was busted in the Eric Adams case, that of the people that are involved in his cabinet, if you will, or political appointees that are in the city hall offices of New York now is that they're busting people that are not with these out there on TV positions. They're busting people that, like they busted, like I mentioned yesterday, a lady who was in charge of awarding all these contracts for housing migrants, for feeding migrants, transporting migrants. And each one of those contracts, those are overbloated. I mean, like it's basically like the way that hustle works. If you don't know, or for anybody who's listening now, is that what you do is like to you get a contract. If you're bidding a contract and somebody who you're cool with is bidding it, you'll take his bid in spite of the fact that it's being underbid by other people. So once they accept your bid, then you just start overcharging that contract. So a plate of food that would normally cost you $4, you say it's $33 because of whatever. And that happens all the time in New York, except with way bigger numbers. It happens all over the place, except that. But New York, the one thing is that with it came to this migrant crisis, is that a lot of that money that they needed to help them see them through that migrant crisis was federal money. And I'm pretty sure that federal money went God knows where. And one thing I will say is that a lot of what you're seeing with what's been unsealed thus far, I'm pretty sure they haven't unsealed everything thus far, but a lot of what we are seeing with what's been unsealed is scratching the surface. If they're rolling up so many people within Eric Adams' cabinet, that means they got a lot of info already. I mean, and I'm gonna get to the Diddy Eric Adams Association, and no, it's not just because of the picture, but if they're rolling up all these people within these small offices in City Hall in New York City, and mind you, this is the feds, the same feds that just rolled up Mr. T, their biggest, the biggest political opponent of the current administration now. Now these same dudes, a couple of days from the next selection, if you will, are rolling up everybody in the Democratic stronghold in New York, and people act like this is just normal shit. Nothing of what you're seeing in 2024 and the past 4 years is normal, my peoples. And anything that you see on TV and even the shit coming out of my mouth should be disseminated with the fine comb. But these are going to be riveting times, and maybe my explanation will make you see as to why I feel that we may be getting some riveting times ahead. Let me read some of the comments before I keep going. Salute, bro. Salute to you too, my brother. It's funny to hear minorities say DEI highs. Now, I mean, but I can't front like it doesn't happen either. I'm like, bro, you know you're not white, right? And you would be a DEI hire. I don't work either. Adam's going to jail. Whole administration was corrupt. Yeah, absolutely. The whole administration is corrupt. And at the end of the day, one thing I do know with New York City politics is that, again, Eric Adams wasn't running a damn thing, even when he was the mayor. The people that run New York City politics are not of the same complexion as Eric Adams, are not of the same religion as you will as Eric Adams, and they're the ones, a certain religion, if you will, run New York with iron fist. Get out of pocket with them, and they replace you. I'm not sure if they're replacing Eric Adams. I don't even know. I can't even call it really. One thing I will say is that in terms of the Puffy case, and this is where I think that there is some association, and I said this yesterday. Puffy, if I read correctly, was raided in Florida and was raided in Cali, if memory serves me right. One place where he wasn't raided was New York. Puffy has been holding New York down. He ain't holding New York down at all. Zero. But Puffy's been based out of New York for a minute. Now I'm gonna take you guys back to the mid '90s, not too long after Biggie died, when it was Biggie versus Puffy. If you guys don't remember, and mind you, I didn't like Biggie one bit when he was alive, and I think Biggie was overrated after he died. Different conversation. But when it was happening back then, and I was totally rooting for Tupac and Death Row, and I didn't like West Coast beats at that time. I didn't even like West Coast rap that much. Like besides Tupac, Dre, I mean, and the classics. But at that time, Dre was a classic, and Snoop was a classic. It it wasn't factoring as much currently when it was Biggie versus Tupac. When that happened, New York was basically on some fuck LA shit, and LA was probably doing the same shit to us. Um, the dude that came out of that situation the best, without a doubt, was Puffy. Suge Knight was in jail not too long after that. Puffy could go to the West Coast as many times as he wanted. It seemed like Puffy was based out of the West Coast after that because his home was raided in the West Coast, if memory serves me correct. So Puffy came out of that Gucci after Biggie died. After Biggie died, though, there was like Puffy was never the person when that beef was happening to say, "Oh, fuck the whole West Coast" or "fuck Death Row." He kind of like just played it as if he ain't want no drama. And I think that was palatable. In addition to the fact that Puffy always seemed to be trying to musically become commercial, and that's not a bad thing necessarily. I didn't like it at the time. I never liked Puffy's music, but whatever. It made him money. And shortly thereafter, I mean, maybe a couple years after Biggie died, and Puffy made a comeback album, his first album, if you will. Basically after Biggie died, and the song, and like the whole album was basically partying and songs about Biggie dying, and it was a huge success. Wackest, one of the wackest albums of all time, overrated. But after that, Puffy was seen as an artist who could make it without Biggie. Puffy was seen as an executive type who could launch off people's careers. And somehow he ended up getting involved with this Rock the Vote thing. I remember the Rock the Vote thing because my man's had cable, and every morning when we would go to school in my block, one person would go to somebody's house, and then those two people would go to somebody else's house and pick him up like that on the same block. So I would go to my friend Sai's house every morning, and he had cable, and I remember they had, like, we would listen to MTV before he dipped, and they had a Kurt Loder report announcing that Puff Daddy was getting involved with this Rock the Vote campaign. And the Rock the Vote campaign was this drive to get young people, the MTV later generation, to vote. Now, I back then and now can safely conclude, or anybody can conclude that Rock the Vote campaign only helped liberal politicians for the most part. So it was basically a person who was sort of a new ambassador to post 2000 rap in Puffy getting involved with this political campaign that was called Rock the Vote. It wasn't like Hip Hop the Vote. It was called Rock the Vote. Black guy is kind of like the mascot of it, if you will. So it had a cool appeal to it. It had, like, they gave these shirts out that had that would say Rock the Vote, and the V was a check within a voting box, like a voting selecting box. It looked cool. I don't know if you guys remember any of this. If you will, you guys could look it up. But Puffy was involved with that. I mean, I'm gonna say to the mid-late 90s, and there was always that, since then, fact that Puffy is sort of involved in the political sphere, going 100% liberal. Like all entertainers, like all athletes, they always, by and large, go 100% liberal. Puffy's involved with this Rock the Vote thing. Puffy does these white parties now. A couple of years later, he's known, and throughout and until now, Puffy's known to doing these world famous parties where royalty goes and celebrities, athletes, the highest of the high go there. You basically are a fledgling celebrity and go to Puffy's party and become a huge celebrity. This was a known thing. And tons of politicians were involved in that. Like, I just saw a video earlier today where they showed Barack Obama at leaving one of the Puffy parties, and they're interviewing him, and he looked drunk. My man's looked twisted, and I don't get drunk among people I don't fuck with. Like he must have been having a good time among people that he fucked with. And like a lot of the people that fucked with Puffy back then and now are being looked at super funky. But a lot of these people that are involved with Puffy that were in his circle, as far as celebrities go, by and large, 99.99999% of the time are voting and helping only uno, solamente uno political party in the USA, and that is the Bleeding Heart Liberals. And they've gone really over the top about doing that with the appearance of Mr. T too. I mean, not to say that that's unique, because I mean, it seems like, well, it is unique because it seems like every goddamn politician started jumped on the bandwagon, and this guy became their sole enemy um, right around the same time. I mean, it seems like they're all on cue, or all taking their cues from the same people, if you will. I'm not sure. No matter what, though, it can't be debated that Puff is involved with doing these parties that may get people in salacious positions. This is what's being speculated. But what is known is that, without a doubt, Leonardo DiCaprio, Barack, politicians that I can't mention here because the algorithm will screw me up. You name it, they were at Puffy's parties, and shit's gonna get spicy. A lot of those Puffy parties, most of them were probably happening in the 90s and even till now in New York City and in the Hamptons. New York, when Puffy caught his case in New York City, how'd that get brushed off so quick? A lot of the people, when that first happened, including Shine, were alluding to the fact that Puffy was the one that shot up that club. Shine just didn't want to snitch. And I know a ton of dudes. My best friend did a Shine move, and he just didn't want to snitch on the person that he got greasy for. And that's to me, that I thought that was a standard hood dude. I mean, you don't snitch. I mean, it just took me to get older to find out that people will snitch for $100. Having said that, though, Shine's notion for a couple of years, because Shine was saying that Puffy was the one that shot up that club going into 2000. I mean, if you guys don't recall, there was a XXL magazine that was called the Beef Issue that had Shine on the front cover. If you got, it was a orange cover and it had Shine in the front. It basically had Shine airing out Puffy. It had Foxy Brown airing out Little Kim, if I remember correctly, and I think that was the reason as to why Nori and Little Kim, Nori, a component Noriega's camp, and Little Kim's camp got into that little shootout outside of Hot 97 Studios, if memory serves me right. It was all in because of articles that came out in a XXL issue in the year 2000. If I remember, it was in the spring. I mean, no, it might have been 2001. And in that article, if you guys go back to it, it's a Shine article talking about Puffy. And he's basically saying that Puffy was the one. He didn't say it outright, but he was saying that he didn't shoot the club up and that wasn't his beef. And that basically saying that Puff did it without saying that Puff did it. And Shine ultimately, who was signed to Bad Boy as an artist, as a rapper, he released that one album and ultimately got deported for that club shooting in Club NYC in Manhattan. And that's another club I know well, another club I've been to. Puffy shot up that club, and the word on the street was that a ton of people saw that it wasn't Shine that did it, for sure. And even the guy that was shot, I think his name was Wolf, was paid off by Puff officially, like, and then the guy Wolf's story changed, if I remember correctly, to Shine being the one that was the shooter. Nevertheless, Puffy came out of that spot clean. Puffy, it was in Puffy's vehicle, if I remember correctly, that in which they found the weapon. But Puff came out of that scot clean. Puff came out of that and was still rocking the boat. Puff came out of that and was still doing white parties with all these celebrities and with all these politicians. You think Eric Adams wasn't involved in those white parties? Be for real. If Eric Adams was at that party that I went to in 2011, mind you, that party was sketchy as shit. And I was just talking to my cousin about that party today because at that time, from like '99 to recently, honestly, New York was on a wave of trying to shut down every club that like because of the drug problem that we had. We had a lot of young people, white boys that were coming into New York and doing ecstasy and wilding out, crashing on their way back home to the suburbs. So the clubs started being shut down outright in New York. They went through a large wave of that. So at that time, if you guys don't know, I DJ. That's like my. I don't DJ as much any longer, but I DJed at a radio station. And I DJ electronic music though. In spite of the fact that I love hip hop, the music that I chose to DJ and that I fucked with just as much as hip hop in early 2000 and even now, I mean, even though I'm falling out of love with the music, but I always fucked with electronic music. My dad loved house music and freestyle music. I never really liked freestyle music that much, but when I got older, I liked house music, techno, all that shit. And I would go to the parties. I've been to parties all around Europe, all that. And when I came back to America, I would go out to clubs here in New York. But my neighborhood, Sunset Park, Brooklyn, is not a neighborhood where they have clubs. At that time, we probably had like one bar. We had like 2 strip clubs. We were known for like more for strip clubs because we had 2 of them in what was a residential neighborhood. And normally in New York, they don't really allow that, but our neighborhood had it, like strip clubs. So I believe it was September. I got an invite for a big party happening in my neighborhood. I'm starting to get news of it. I come to find out that this party is going to be the biggest techno party in the history of the country. So I was like, yeah, I got to roll up there. This is my neighborhood, and I like to show face anyway. So I ended up going, and the place was in a humongous warehouse in my neighborhood on 39th Street of First Avenue. The party had easily 2,000 people. It had more, probably double that, honestly. It was a humongous place. This place wasn't built out to do parties, though. It was a warehouse. I mean, in New York, New York, you could get away with doing like an underground party if you pay off the right people. But that's like a party with 200 people. This had easily 2,000 people. It was being broadcasted everywhere. On my mind, I was going to go thinking that they were going to shut it down because the fire marshal shut real parties down. They'll shut down parties with celebrities in it. And I probably know now that that's due to bribery. But my thinking was I'm going to go and I'm going to see all these great DJs. Plus, there was a DJ that was going that I already knew. So I was like, fuck it, it'll be fun. And I'm thinking they're going to shut it down. And because the party was supposed to go on till 6. I rose up there. The party was bumping. And it didn't look like it was going to get shut down. It looked like a disaster because that warehouse is like, again, it's not logistically built out for the event that I'm telling you. And again, this isn't in the spring either, and this isn't outdoors. This is in an indoor warehouse. I think it was actually on Thanksgiving. For some reason, it just ended up falling on Thanksgiving, and it wasn't ideal weather for it. But it was packed out. Ended up going, and I see the precinct commander of my local precinct at that time, who I know at that time is also involved in grimy shit. This is not to be debated. This is not that people told me. I've seen him be involved with grimy shit. Limited to basically pimping, being involved with sex trafficking in my neighborhood. This was not debated. This was not something that he was involved with by himself either. He was involved with that with other people I've seen him that were also part of the police department. To put it frankly, I don't care what happens after this. And it's not really a big deal because the whole New York City department is corrupt. So I mean, like, if they're gonna go after some little Puerto Rican guy in Jersey for saying this, I mean, let them. But I see the precinct commander at the party, and I'm like thinking like maybe he's here because this is his command and he just wants to see what's up. I ain't find nothing suspicious of that. But he's running around looking all worried. So I'm thinking they're gonna shut it down. Like when I saw his face, I only saw him once. A little while later, this is a techno party. It's not like a hip hop party where you would cut in and like drop like on the mic. The DJ is gonna drop on the mic and like talk over the song and shit. Out of nowhere, the music like cuts off, and this is 2011, mind you. Eric Adams is the Brooklyn Borough President, insignificant position as it relates to New York City, the borough presidents of any borough. The Brooklyn Borough President was announced, and they put him on the stage, and he starts talking, and he says, "Oh, you know, we want to make Brooklyn the destination of all these big parties, and let the people know that through this party, the party was called Time Warp, TIMEWARP, New York City, in Brooklyn, New York." But he said, "I want to thank the people that work for Time Warp, and that through this great party, and let them know that we want them to come back to Brooklyn next year." Everybody cheered, and it went away. And I was thinking, man, it's fucking weird because this party is one step away from being a goddamn underground, like illegal rave type shit. You have the police commander of my precinct who's here. This dude, I know for sure at that time was grimy as shit. And then you got this borough president who was also a cop in his past life, also here. And I know for sure that that party wouldn't be allowed in any normal circumstance without a bunch of bribes being tossed around. And moving forward, the following year, I was going to go to that party again. Actually, no, I did go to that party again. I got in for free the following year again because I got tickets from the headline DJ, which is Richie Hawtin. And I could prove this too if I need to shut somebody the fuck up. If you guys are any bit in tune with the techno music scene, that was the time that Richie Hawtin threw a speaker on a bitch. I was actually at that party, and I actually got invited by Richie Hawtin himself to the party. And I actually have a video on my Facebook if you're on my face for the 2 or 3 people that know me from Facebook here. But I found that like I knew for sure at that moment when Eric Adams at Time Warp in 2011 that Eric Adams personally was involved with getting a bribe for that party to proceed. And the Eric Adams case in New York City that he's getting rolled up now as it relates to the Turkish people, because supposedly he was working with the Turkish government. That's not that weird in New York City, and I explained that yesterday. New York City, because they had the United Nations based out of New York City, has a lot of embassies based out of New York City too. Every country has an embassy in New York City, and that's because of the UN, the United Nations being in New York City. Get it? So the fact that you, as a New York City politician, are involved with these foreign politicians isn't outside of the realm of possibility, because all those countries have embassies for the most part. They're called houses in New York City. So that's how that connection could be made. One thing I do know, though, is that the reason that is being put out there currently as to why Eric Adams, the mayor of New York City, is being rolled up is because of his associating with the Turkish government and basically allowing them to build a building in New York City and basically blessing them with permits. There was also word that he awarded people from the Turkish government with New York City positions, which, if that's true, I find that insanely weird in the sense that a person working for a government of another country in New York City, that's not like bummy ass people. They usually don't have a ton of people in these embassies. They usually have a select few, like 20. And those people are usually loyal to their country. Like they don't go and like come to do a tour and work at the embassy for Turkey, let's say, and then they'll stay living in New York. No, they'll usually get people that are really loyal to Turkey, so that when they come to New York and they do these things for that country that they're representing, that they won't sway. Because I mean, like, there's a lot of money in New York. I mean, there's a lot of money in America. So they get people that are normally really loyal to their country. So I don't think that if Eric Adams did award somebody from the government of Turkey, let's say, New York City government position, that wasn't done in the spirit of awarding that person that he awarded that New York City job to the money of a New York City government salary. Because I mean, it's not that much at the end of the day. I mean, sure, you could skim and do corrupt shit, but if that person who was representing Turkey got a job representing New York somehow, it was probably for something really, really dangerous. I don't know. The potential is really, really dangerous. You never know when you're dealing with these international things like that. So, and that's again the story that we're getting told to us. To say that Eric Adams and Puffy aren't connected is a damn near impossibility. You guys have seen the pictures of Eric Adams giving Puff Daddy the keys to the city. In addition to the fact that Eric Adams is known to be a nightlife hound, even before he became the mayor, but he had the distinction of being a nightlife hound, notorious nightlife hound, while he was the mayor of New York City at a time when New York City was at its worst. Since 2020, New York City has been at its worst. This can't be explained away via statistics or fucking some rational number that tells you that people are doing better now than 2020. No. I go to Sunset Park, Brooklyn almost all the time. I see the same motherfuckers I saw in 2020 as the same motherfuckers I grew up with in the 80s, as the same motherfuckers I was chasing down in the 90s. They're all the same people, and they all look dejected, broken down, hungry, destitute, you name it. In addition to the fact that they're now living with a new migrant class of people that are young, active, hungry, and looking to do crime. And now those same people that I mentioned earlier that are destitute, hungry, broke, you name it, are also now forcefully neighbors with people that are just as hungry and don't speak the language. So Eric Adams was known for going out and partying a lot during that time. And now this ain't going to a pub. This ain't going to get a few beers. This is going to get fucking to the raunchiest, nastiest New York parties you could think of. Probably doing coke. Fucking probably seen a few dicks in the vicinity, out in the open. This is how shit gets down in New York, my friends. And especially when you're talking about the elites, if you will, the liberal think tanks of New York, if you will, the liberal gods of New York, the science of New York, the scientists, like we had recently. If you guys haven't heard, just last week there was a undercover expose of the Dr. Fauci of New York. I think his name is Dr. Parva, and this was the doctor that we were seeing around the clock in New York. With these emergency broadcasts that were happening around that big event in 2020 that was constantly showing red screens and the number of people that were dying, the number of infections, the number of people that sneezed, the number of green boogers that motherfuckers saw that day because Mr. T was in office and we were being ravaged by the illest disease that anybody's ever seen since 2020. During that time, though, when Fauci wasn't on the TV telling you to mask up, stay home, and drink the tea, in New York City, we had another moron called Dr. Parva who was telling people to do the same, who was telling people that in New York City, we shouldn't be congregating with more than 6 people, that was dangerous, that was unscientific. He was telling people in New York City that if you didn't get the shot and you wanted to be a firefighter or a police officer, that you couldn't retain your job. He was making these recommendations. He was setting the standard, and a lot of people, thousands of firefighters and cops, lost their jobs in New York City at that time. I'm no apologist and back the blue. Fuck them motherfuckers. not the people that were fired. I actually do stand with people that had the conviction to lose their careers rather than drinking something that they didn't want to drink in their arm, if you will. But this person, Dr. Parva, was going in New York City, social distance on TV. They would have these weird press conferences in these humongous board tables, and they'd have Dr. Parva on one end, and then 10 feet down the line, fucking Bill de Blasio, and then 10 feet away from him, so they could do a big spectacle of their social distancing. Some other asshole official, all in mask. All of them were wearing masks except for when they talk, telling you to mask and telling you to drink shots through your arms. All to find out that with this undercover expose that Crowder did last week, that doctor was admitting to on a date on hidden camera to going out to these underground parties in Wall Street, New York, underneath banks with his wife, with 200 people, and that they were these sex parties. They were basically orgies, and that he was taking Molly and ecstasy, doing drugs and fucking all these people, and that's the time that he discovered himself. Now, what they did was that they did one of these undercover exposés and basically probably sent a bitch with tits out there and try to act like they're interested in him, like abroad, and get them to basically bare their soul, like to tell them about their lives during the span of a date while they're being recorded on hidden camera. This fool, during the span of a few dates, admitted to some bitch that him and his wife were going to these underground orgies throughout New York City and underground parties, and having these big sex parties. Meanwhile, they're telling you during that same time that you can't keep your job unless you take the shot, that you can't be around your family unless you're um, less than 6 people, unless you're keeping apart from each other, unless you could prove that you took the Holy Sacrament and drank the tea through your arm. You know, that was happening a whole heck of a lot by this person who was one step down from Eric Adams. He wasn't appointed by Eric Adams. He was retained by Eric Adams, though, and his policies were continued under Eric Adams, which were basically mask up, drink a bunch of shit through your arms, forcefully mandated. Put every mandate in place that we could. Mandate the firefighters, mandate the cops, mandate the doctors here in New York City. If we lose them, fuck them. We don't need them. This is how basically their political stance. Only to find out that during that time that he was preaching to you fools that the science was real, and that because he had a lab coat and he was a doctor, you should trust the science, and that if you got your news anywhere except from the corporate media and from scientists like him and Fauci, that you were dead wrong. Well, come to find out, we weren't wrong. If you didn't drink the tea, like myself, if you didn't take one of those stupid tests through your nose, like myself, you were going to be all right. You may not get invited to parties, but you may not need to go to parties. I ended up finding out the hard way, and I came out a lot better for it. But I didn't lose myself in the process. A lot of y'all were fronting like y'all weren't going to drink the shot when Trump said that he was going to come out with the shot to try to help stop the big 2020 event. Y'all were fronting like, nah, we ain't gonna take no Trump shot. Like, or we ain't taking that Trump shit. A lot of celebrities were fronting. Even your girl Kamala was fronting, bro. Like, hold on, let me pull up proof of that though, because I brought this out in the spirit of a debate yesterday, and motherfuckers thought I was fronting, but I want to pull up video proof though, because let me see, whole administration was corrupt. No, it certainly is. But liberal politics as a whole are corrupt. And thankfully, the pendulum is swinging the other way, and it's gone somewhat away from the fact that Trump is this big convict to, hey, listen, there might be a lot of other people that are one step away from being involved with the political sphere, or who are outright involved with the political sphere as it pertains to New York City, as it pertains to Puffy, pushing people to vote with the Rock the Vote campaign that was strictly going liberal for the most part. You got all these people now that a lot of people are looking at them extremely funky. And I don't know. I mean, I must be tripping, but I'm seeing a lot of black people that are shitting on Kamala as soon as she came into her announcement. That hasn't been dying down by any stretch. If anything, I see a lot of black Latin people, black Latin women, straight shitting on Kamala. The only people that are seemingly gaining ground with Kamala are white women, and even them bitches ain't fucking with her. But you have Eric Adams, the DNC darling, the Brooklyn Biden. Eric Adams was calling himself this uh, a little bit over a year ago. Now getting rolled up 40 something days away from the November selection. Nah, there's something a little funky here. And not that I'm complaining. I like for things to get spicy. Word up. A lot of people made it seem, and I'm not saying it just for Mr. T to get spicy. And I know that he will, if he gets into office, make things incredibly spicy for a lot of these same people. And if Trump were to make spicy for his political opponents, I'm not gonna trip one iota, because I mean, like, to me, that makes for decent theater at this stage. I mean, it was okay when they brought it in his direction. It should be okay when he brings it in their direction. And you have the potential for that being decided in 40 something days, and all these people now are really walking on thin ice, in my eyes. I don't know. I might be bugging. If you guys agree with me or not, I mean, there's five of y'all here now. Yo, much love to five of y'all being here, because I fucking am happy if two people show up. Some people will say that there is no algorithm on YouTube. Bullshit. There is an algorithm on YouTube. If YouTube doesn't want for you to be found, you ain't gonna be found. But if you this evening found me, please help your brother out and do subscribe and do come back. If you feel the wherewithal or the goal to step into the chat, feel free. If you want me to drop the link and you want to contend anything I say at any point, I'll put that out there. Especially if you want to come up here and defend liberal principle talking points. I'll come out. You come through and I'll toast you. I'm not gonna be courteous no more and let people just start going into non-points and talking nonsense from now on. I mean, you come onto this format and to my platform, I just want to stick to things that pertain to a particular debate. If you gas me, fantastic. But if you come up here defending liberal principles, you ain't gonna gas your boy. I'm gonna torch you, and that goes out as a challenge to anybody in the YouTube sphere who wants to come up here defending her or shitting on Mr. T. I'm not here just to defend Mr. T. I mean, I'm in the party of likely not voting. Honestly, I mean, although I want a ton of people to vote just to make things spicy, because from the look of it, it doesn't seem as if many people in the real world are trying to vote for her. But all you're seeing on the regular media is that this race is neck and neck. When I could take you to New York, to my hood right now, and we'll ask random people, and that shit ain't gonna look neck and neck. But I could have brought you there a year ago, and that shit would have been probably more for her. I could have took you a year ago, and it probably would have been more for Biden. But these last couple of months, and it's not with the fact that they pushed Kamala into the race in July. Nah, it's just that people are starting to notice that there's a lot of funky stuff happening, and a lot of it is coming out of primarily one part of the political sphere. Now, one thing I will tell you, there's a lot of conservatives that are full of shit. In fact, most of them are. But to me, I mean, politics right now are very easy in the sense of it's very easy to see that all these people are hurt behind one guy, and a lot of people are now coming to the realization that I've came to long ago that maybe that guy isn't so bad, and I should start listening to what he's saying and seeing if he's full of shit or not. Through that process, I find out that Mr. T one isn't full of shit, and that politics in this country is completely not what I expected. And I'm somebody who's been in tune with politics since I was a youngster, and even more so now. I love politics. I love being in tune with international politics, with domestic politics. And I'm not saying I'm an expert, but I will tell you that everything you see on TV is a crock of shit. If in New York City right now, we go to any hood and people are going to tell you 50-50 that they're not fucking with her, that means that if they go show up to the booth, that they're going to go fuck with him, Mr. T, if you will. Or they're just going to stay home. And a lot of people are probably just going to stay home. Mr. T's people ain't going to stay home, not one bit. And Mr. T's adding people to his cause. People ain't jumping onto the cause for Biden, but a lot of these same people, like my brother, the boxing scholar who I was debating with yesterday, these people will probably tell you that Biden was a riveting candidate up until Biden showed up onto that debate stage and had brain shit and got embarrassed. But those people I'm pretty sure that those people would have told you they were still going to vote Biden even after that. None of them were recommending, hey, we should throw Kamala into the fold. As soon as these people, as soon as a lot of cats, as soon as Kamala got thrown into the fold, a lot of people are acting like there's just this wave of joy and positivity and like riveting outpour in the streets for Kamala, when what I'm seeing on YouTube, what I'm seeing on video, and what I'm seeing when I talk to people in real life in my hood, Sunset Park, Brooklyn, New York City, is that people aren't fucking with her at all. People have a ton of bad shit to say about her. The way that people were talking about Mr. T, like with that emotion, like and that emotional damage in 2020, that shit is getting played out. There were people that are talking like that in 2023 that people were listening to. I mean, I was on a panel yesterday, and it seemed like a lot of those people were saying talking points that would have been able to take over any conversation in 2021 and 2022, even last year, that are now getting tuned out. Like if you bring up, let's say, January 6th as a reason as to why somebody in my neighborhood that isn't fucking with her should fuck with her and vote for her, they'd probably spit in your face. You'd probably get jumped for saying some shit like that. Like you'd probably get jumped for saying that to somebody whose grocery bill has gone up while these people have been in office. You'll probably get jumped by people who had to become neighbors with violent Venezuelans in New York. Like most of my neighbors in New York, or like most of my old neighbors, because I actually had a little bit of sanity to me and left that shithole that I call my city. And I got much love for New York. I still got my block tattooed on my arm. I still go to New York all the time. I'm going back in a few days. I just can't frux with it like that. I mean, some people use it like when I start talking about politics in New York being corrupt. Some people will say, "Oh, well, the mafia, it's always been corrupt." Nah, I mean, the mayor of a big city like New York doesn't get rolled up that often. Yeah, the mayor of Chicago got rolled up after Obama became president, if I remember correctly. But that was probably Obama sticking it to him after that and sent the DOJ in that direction. This is a different case entirely. I know Biden does have a little bit of anonymity, or the Biden administration, whoever's running it right now, because Biden's on the beach and Biden is out. Where's Biden? Have you guys heard from Biden recently? I know I haven't. Just like Kamala, they keep hiding both of them. Anyhow, it's not the same as the Chicago mayor in the sense that the Chicago mayor pretty much got bagged for supposedly trying to sell a political seat that was vacated by Obama, if I remember correctly. Whereas Eric Adams, what you're getting right now is him being investigated by a part of Homeland Security, by a department in that agency, which seems like they look into like high crimes. Like, I don't know. Like, it just doesn't seem for it to be appropriate that they're the ones that raided Eric Adams, that particular department. I can't recall the department offhand, but if you guys could look it up, do your due diligence. But you got that happening at the same time that Puffy has this case with no chance of bail, a celebrity who has the means to pay for his own bail. I mean, supposedly he volunteered with $50 million of his own cash for Puffy to get out of jail. Not being given a chance to come out of jail tells me that Puffy's involved with some legitimate, real high crime. Also, of note, or another funny coincidence, is that supposedly Puffy is in the same jail cell as Sam Bankman-Fried, the founder, operator, CEO of FTX. There's a rumor that, I mean, I think this is not a rumor. I think this is true, that FTX was probably the second biggest political contributor to the Biden campaign in the 2020 election. That should give people cause for concern. Well, not cause for concern, but I just found it interesting that they're both in the same jail cell in the federal prison in Brooklyn. If you guys don't know, the federal prison that's in Brooklyn also is in my neighborhood too. That Puffy had a press conference outside of that jail, or his representative did, his lawyer, and he basically alluded to the fact that Puffy was in possession of that large amount of baby oil because the home that he was living in was in close proximity to a Costco. But if you guys look that video up, I think it came out today, of Puffy's lawyer speaking outside of the jail cell of Puffy, or outside of Puffy's jail. That jail is the Brooklyn Federal Detention Facility, and that's actually in my neighborhood, in Sunset Park. In fact, the story I told you guys about that party that Eric Adams attended to is actually right behind that jail. You could actually see the warehouse that club or that party was allowed to happen, and it's in really close proximity to a jail. So that just shows you that that party was allowed to happen in a place where New York City, where they were really cock blocking those kind of events to go down, because of the drug culture, rave culture that was associated with like techno, and that party was a techno party that I saw Eric Adams at in 2011. But it was right behind that jail cell, which, funnily enough, Puffy is in now, and they're saying that Eric Adams, if he gets rolled up, will also have to go to that same jail cell. Just a funny coincidence. The FTX thing, though, too, a lot of that money was rumored to be dirty money, according to many people. That's just a grapevine. But a lot of that money ended up in the hands of Democratic campaigns from 2020 on. The second biggest political contributor to the Democrats was the Sam Bankman-Fried company, and now him and Puffy are in same jail cell. Little funky. I don't know. But it seems like a lot of these people are getting rolled up. I like that, bro. Like, I mean, like, things need to get spicy in this country in order for the American population and the population around the world to wake up. The stuff that's happening in New York, or that's allowed to happen in New York, I know for sure that human trafficking that's happening in New York, it's at its peak right now. the amount of migrants that are flown into New York, the fact that they pretty much allowed prostitution to be legalized in New York. Mind you, there's a lot of prostitution that's high dollar that happens behind closed doors. I know I've seen firsthand of prostitution operations that happened in my neighborhood that were selling women that were pretty much slaves, that were entrapped, that couldn't go anywhere, that couldn't get out of that job. So, and this was, I'm talking about in the early 2000s. Now, what do you think is happening now when New York City is at its most lawless? One, you're basically being told in New York City and around the world in most cities that crime isn't really happening and that some statistic will prove to you that crime isn't happening. But meanwhile, all cities look like they've been infected with some sort of cancer that I've gone to. Uh, you name it. Any city I've gone to in the last 4 years has looked far shittier than the previous times that I visited. That wasn't happening. This is a more recent phenomenon, and it's happening all over the place. And in the case of New York City, I feel that it's been allowed to happen, and that a lot of people have profiteered off of it. My hope is that these people were allowed to profiteer and allowed to get away with things, all while they were being tracked. Because I think that some of the worst crimes that you could even imagine were allowed to happen in New York have always been allowed to happen in New York for certain high life people, if you will. Certain people like the people that party with Dr. Parva, the Dr. Fauci of New York, who was in underground orgies underneath Wall Street banks during the lockdown, according to him, having sex parties with his wife. According to him, this is all on video, hidden video last week. If you guys don't believe me, check it out. Hit it. Steven Crowder did an expose. But these are the kind of people that are Dr. Parva parties with. And sometimes these people go to the after party, and these after parties get a little bit nuttier than what you and I could imagine. But there's some people that have taste that need to be placated in the worst ways you could think of. And those people are in every city, but those people are in New York. And those people right now are uninhibited with what they could get away with it in New York, with the supply of desperate human beings that are flown in from third world countries, dropped off in New York, that are dropped off without means amongst people without means to fend for themselves. Like, will somebody like that sell a kid? Who knows? Will somebody like that sell a kid that's not theirs? Who knows? A lot of the kids that are coming into this country, coming in with their parents, no, absolutely not. A lot of the kids that have come into this country recently, unaccounted for, yes, hundreds of thousands of them. God knows what has happened to them. I think the biggest thing that this country needs to do is find those kids first, in addition to unfucking the migrant situation by not allowing anymore and enforcing a border and building a real border, but also really go back retrospectively like they've done to Trump and really start investigating everybody in the political sphere, including Republicans. Everybody should be investigated. There's a lot of dark money flowing around this country, and it doesn't seem like politicians on both sides of the aisle give one shit. Like, if I mentioned, like what I mentioned before regarding kids that are disappearing by the ass loads, kids that are unaccounted for, kids that for some reason are being allowed to come into this country without parents. Um, if those kids are no longer with us, or if those kids are unaccounted for, we need to find every one of them. But we need to find out if they've disappeared, where they disappeared to, and if they disappeared because they were somebody's entertainment. If they disappeared because somebody needed a body part off of them. Who the fuck knows? I don't know what these people get up to. Um, I do know that the number that Mr. T put out recently, as far as kids that are unaccounted for, if I remember correctly, and he said that this weekend in a speech, was 320,000. If memory served me right, it may have been either 320,000. It may have been either or 370,000. I'm not sure which. They're both a humongously large number of kids that are accounted for, migrant kids that are unaccounted for since they've entered the country. According to Mr. T. Now, again, the media could jump all over that. If Mr. T is lying, like you guys think, like he lied about people eating dogs, like he lied about people eating cats, uh, then the burden of proof is on the media to say Mr. T is lying about these kids that are unaccounted for, that he claims are unaccounted for, of these new migrant kids that have come into this country. Mr. T is lying when he said that there are 320,000 missing kids. We'll prove Mr. T wrong by showing that these kids are here. The media ain't doing none of that shit, though. And Mr. T said that Saturday. Why is that? Why is that, guys? Why is that all these people suddenly have gone from pursuing Mr. T to now being pursued? Not by Mr. T necessarily. Mr. T's in the cut. Mr. T's not a nobody politician, according to y'all, many of y'all. Mr. T lost. But how is it that all these people that were bringing pain to Mr. T for 3 years are in the last couple of months now walking on thin ice, seemingly out of nowhere? I don't know. It just seems funny to me. And again, Mr. T's waiting to be sentenced in New York over a trumped up bullshit case that he was found guilty of, 34 counts, felony counts. Like, he's still waiting to be tried in the same city that the mayor just got rolled up on with this federal case. Now, if you guys like, I've heard on the news today that this political commentator saying that these federal cases that that Mayor Adams could come out of it looking better, and that he may still run for the mayor of New York City, and he's going to come out of this spot clean. There's nothing to this. I think that lady's full of shit. I mean, if the feds come rolling, the feds usually have a case on you before they come a knocking. That's one. Two, I mean, again, this isn't no bullshit person. This is the mayor of the biggest city in the whole entire world, New York City, #1 city in the world to all the haters. None of this stuff is normal. And again, more importantly, before I dip, 40-something days away from our next election, and you got all this bad news that could only reflect bad on only one political party, the DNC, is being reflected negatively by this news with Eric Adams. Although this is a city case, the DNC is looking shitty, can only look shitty or shittier by Puffy getting rolled up. Again, Puffy been throwing votes in the Democratic direction, influencing other people, young people, to vote in that direction for a long time. Now, all of a sudden, these people are getting rolled up. I don't think any of this stuff is normal. I don't think any of this stuff is precedented. And I think we're just in the beginning of this, and we're headed for spicy times. Grab your popcorn, chill out. Don't get rolled up in any of this. Don't fight your family over any of this stuff. Much love if you agree with me. Much love if you disagree with me. But at the end of the day, I'm just like y'all, a fucking regular guy trying to figure this shit out. Just like y'all. I ain't no expert. Nobody you hear on YouTube, for the most part, is an expert. And even if they are quote unquote experts, if you will, let me show the camera for this fucking expert. Oh shit. Experts front all the fucking time, especially in recent history. And if you guys are being led on by experts or shooting somebody else down for not being a quote unquote expert in 2024, then you're a damn fool, because the experts told you to drink the tea when you could have beat the flu without drinking the tea, all by with what's natural within your body. Now, the expert told you need many doses of the tea. And if you listen to them, they told you needed 6 or 7 doses, 2 doses of tea and a couple boosters. They were lying though. So this young Puerto Rican, uneducated, 9th grade dropout was actually smarter than the experts when it came to drinking the tea, in spite of the fact that I couldn't go to Burger King because I didn't drink the tea. I don't go to Burger King. In spite of the fact that a lot of people were acting like they didn't want to be around me because I didn't want to drink the tea. In spite of the fact that people were saying that it's riskier to not drink the tea than to drink the tea. In spite of the fact that some of these same people were telling me there was no way they were going to drink the tea because that tea came out during Mr. T's time. Actually, hold on. Before I forget, let me show the video of her, our girl Kamala, saying that she wasn't drinking that tea because it seemed like I'm seemingly people didn't believe me when I had brought the fact that a lot of celebrities, a lot of politicians were saying that there was no way they were going to drink the tea if it came out during the time in which Mr. T was the president. Only for a few months later, those same people tell you that you were an asshole if you didn't drink the tea. What's up with all that? What's up with these dudes? Let me look for the clip. I'm gonna send it to myself on another platform, and then I'll play it alongside this video. I hope you guys are doing wonderful. Yo, if you guys don't make it boring for me either, my friends. Comment, let your boy know what's up. Tell me I'm an asshole if you don't agree with me. Just 1 second, guys, while I get this message sent to myself. I'm gonna show you. Trying to think if I could hear of any news. Oh, I mean, if you guys follow sports, I'm a big Met fan, and the only reason I'm doing this video, honestly, is because the Mets got rained out for 2 games, and I'm waiting around like an asshole until we get the season underway again. So I got the video clip pulled up. Let me play it for you guys now. 1 second, I just got to figure it out in StreamYard. And again, I know there's 5 of you here now. Thank to whoever you are. I would really like it if you guys commented more, honestly. I would like to engage motherfuckers. I would actually like to debate people, if you will, better. But I'll take what I could get. She's corny, man. What the fuck's wrong with this thing? I'm trying to figure out how to play a video on StreamYard. But again, this is a video of our girl Kamala saying that she wasn't gonna drink the tea, if you will. Again, and also too, this clip is coming from Twitter. If you guys don't believe your eyes and ears and think that this is a voice that's superimposed during the Democratic debates, I mean, you go ahead. But again, this is Kamala in her own words. Believe me if you will.
If the Trump administration approves a vaccine before or after the election, should Americans take it, and would you take it?
If the public health professionals, if Dr. Fauci, if the doctors tell us that we should take it, I'll be the first in line to take it. Absolutely. But if Donald Trump tells us that we should take it, I'm not taking it.
If the Trump administration approves a vaccine before or after the election, should Americans take it, and would you take it?
If the public health professionals, if Dr. Fauci, if the doctors tell us that we should take it, I'll be the first in line to take it. Absolutely. But if Donald Trump tells us that we should take it, I'm not taking it.
You see, that's where you're wrong. That's where you're wrong. Because she said that Dr. Fauci took it, or that since Dr. Fauci said you could take it, that's different. See, because Dr. Fauci's the doctor, and when Mr. T said he was gonna come out with a vaccine, I wasn't gonna take it, but that's different. Even though she was saying that Mr. T, she was going to take a Mr. T vaccine. Fauci said later on that it was okay, so all washes up. But none of this happened. According to some people, there's a actual. I'm gonna get that pulled up next time. A celebrity role and politicians saying that they were going to take a Mr. T vax, if you will. And here's Kamala in her own words as well. If you guys didn't know, and I said this yesterday, that a lot of the red tape that normally is put in front of making a new medicine, if you will, was allowed to not be put when they were trying to create the solution for the 2020 problem. The tea that you had to drink to beat the 2020 problem. Trump said that he was going to cut a lot of the red tape out, and he enacted Operation Warp Speed, which cut a lot of the red tape that the medical field would face in coming up with a vax. Again, I'm adamantly opposed to the vax, but Trump cut a lot of the red tape so that they could quickly produce a vax to try to combat the 2020 problem. And that's what they came up with. He didn't say you had to take it. He didn't say I'm going to put a mandate in place. The Biden administration were the ones pushing mandates. Kamala's people were the ones pushing mandates. The people that pull Biden strings were the ones pushing mandates. The people that pull Biden strings are the same people that pull Kamala strings. Kamala is not a smart person. This was known. The people who were taking Kamala out of the last race when she was running in the Democratic primaries before were mostly black people that were shooting her down online and saying they ain't fucking with her because how she incarcerated people in California when she was the district attorney. So miss me with all that shit, bro. Like what you see on TV is a bunch of bullshit that's catered to women and the kind of women that don't fuck. At the end of the day, like these miserable people that are shrieking all the time and making it seem that the fact that they're sensationalized and the fact that they're butthurt about a particular issue, namely Mr. T, is reason enough for you to not be invited out or not be allowed to shop at certain places a couple years ago, is reason enough to shoot any debate down with shrieking and crying and bullshit. Listen, we ain't doing none of that in 2024. Y'all done for. Like, if your girl happens to win, it ain't because of how good she's doing in the street. Right now in the street, anybody, even her biggest supporter, is gonna tell you that she's doing worse than even this past July. And that's what they're reporting. These are the same people that were telling you that that the lady that ran against Trump in 2016 was whooping his ass up until election day. These people were telling you that that lady was beating Trump by 8% in 2016, a couple days before election day. There was no way Mr. T was going to win in 2016, according to the expert class on TV. Now that same expert class is making it seem like this lady is extremely popular when she's not. This lady couldn't beat Joe Biden in 2020 to become the Democratic frontrunner. And I remember vividly in 2019, 2020, when this lady presented herself as a Democratic frontrunner, that the black people of California were the first ones to jump in the fray and knock her right off that position, followed by Tulsi Gabbard sticking the dagger into her gut on that debate stage. And that basically took our girl here out of the race in 2020. Now, these people are trying to remix the fact that just because this lady was the vice president for the worst president in our times, Joe Biden, that she now has become ultra popular, to the point that she's winning this election. Where go outside to any hood, all these dudes that are here on YouTube, making it seem like you're bugging if you think that Mr. T is doing well or doing better in the hood while Kamala is doing way worse. Don't go to the hood. You could tell that they don't go to the hood and talk that kind of stuff. They'll go in the hood and they may talk to a little bit of politics with people they know, but they wouldn't go to people they don't know in the hood and ask them straight up because they know what kind of answers they're gonna get. I'll go to any hood right now. Challenge me to do it, and and you'll see the results. I don't need if the results don't favor me, I'm cool with that. Or I'll take that back. I'll go to any hood except Minneapolis or some shit like that, like some liberal fucking Midwest bunkie town with the standing army that'll beat you into submission if you don't agree. Nah, not no shit like that. I'm not stupid either. But our girl ain't popular. Our girl ain't one of us. Some people are saying that this is at best a 12%. As far as her bloodline goes, as far as her minority status as it relates to this country. I mean, at 12%, that means that your boy making this video right now has more black than your girl here. Because my granddad is straight up black, meaning that I'm probably an eighth. An eighth would probably make me what? What's an eighth? Half of 25%, like 12.5. So we Gucci, bro. I'm just on my grandpops alone. We Gucci on. I'll beat Kamala out with my black card. So I could talk all the mess I want in that department. But having said that, I'm running out of steam here. It's a little late. It's 3:26 out here. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Hopefully, I don't have to come on here if the Mets play tomorrow, and hopefully the Mets fucking get my team into the playoffs. If you have kids, don't get them into liking baseball. Actually, no, baseball is a beautiful sport. It's just very stressful for me, and that's the reason I'm on YouTube at 3 in the morning. And to talk New York shit. I'm gonna try to come on more though, man, because politics are finally getting to the point in these past couple of days, honestly, where they're getting a little bit more spicy. And I'm here for all of that shit. I would like to come on here every day until the election to break down what's happening. But I will try to come on more and more. I'm working out an interview with one of our mans that agreed to do an interview with me. I'm not gonna go much into that. I like to do that. It's just too much shit though, man. Like right now, like working like on a personal note, man. Like all the shit I got going on in the cribs. Fucking a lot of times I don't even be having the get up since my dog died. Like to be coming on YouTube and acting all happy and all this shit. I ain't gonna come on here fronting. But I don't know. It's like fucking a lot of times I just get lost working on this fucking house. I live in an old house and I like to not spend money while working on it. So I do shit myself and I don't know what the fuck I'm doing most times. And I still got to get it done and it just takes a lot of my time. And a lot of times I'm just not built for it either, but I'm an old man now. I can't be running around like I used to. And my body just takes a toll. And so much so that it just takes the life out of me to come onto this platform. Even to talk shit I do want to talk about. But if anybody's been fronting, it's me as far as like my commitment to YouTube. But I would like to change that. I don't want to make a commitment to you guys now. But if you did take your time and did come here and show love, listen, I appreciate you for coming through. Do help your brother out and subscribe. I mean, YouTube is screwing me algorithmically. The algorithm does exist. my biggest nemesis on YouTube, this piece of shit named I am Trill Will, detest me for some ungodly reason. But anyhow, this guy has zero to talk about. His subscriber count was stuck in the same spot. This motherfucker became a Kamala channel, and his shit probably grew like it never grew before. So that just shows you that the algorithms does exist. And this is a person that was bitching about the algorithm screwing him for some reason. To now him talking about politics for since Kamala got pushed out as the candidate, and you see an automatic spike in my biggest nemesis on YouTube, the illest dude on YouTube, I am Trill Will of the LDBC, the Lions Den boxing community, the illest YouTube gang, the illest internet gang known to on the history of the platform. Anyhow, this dude was going nowhere. Dude was coming on YouTube every night, fucking hours deep, nonsense, talking nothing. His subscriber count stood the same, bro. His shit wasn't going nowhere. Mind you, he was on this shit all the time. Once he got with her, once he got with our girl Kamala here, endorsed her, shit was a wrap. Like then YouTube started throwing direct love his way. But that's a robot though that they're throwing his way. If you're one of the 5 people that are still here now listening, you ain't no fucking robot. You got here in spite of the algorithm. And if you're here because you support Mr. T, no, this isn't a solely support Mr. T channel, but I'm not a nut job either. I don't give a shit about you supporting Mr. T and making it, and I'm not gonna try to flip it on you and make it seem like you're a racism because you support Mr. T, or I'm not gonna seem like you're endorsing the rating of the Capitol because you endorse Mr. T's. You know, I will say though that if you blindly follow your girl here, that you're a damn fool. I mean, I'm allowed to say that, am I not? Am I not? Like, I mean, if you think that Mr. T is running a cult, but you're willing to vote for our girl here blindly, you're willing to vote for our boy brain rot Biden blindly, regardless of the policy he put in place. Don't think that you have the authority on a channel on it, like or in 2024 to be shooting anybody down who contends that notion, who doesn't ride with the DNC. We ain't falling for that. But anyway, thank you guys for coming through. Much love, and I do appreciate it. I am gonna try to come on more. Hopefully, after the baseball season, and hopefully I have a great rest of the baseball season. I'll come on every fucking day if that happens. But with that, I want to wish you guys a happy rest of your evening and have a wonderful day. I am Certified Player of Brooklyn, NYC. Do please subscribe to me if you could. Like this video, dislike this video. I don't give a shit. Send any shit my way if you could. I'm begging. Nah, but much love to all of you that did come through. Much love to my couple of subscribers. And that's about it. I run the gamut. Hope you guys have a wonderful, whatever the fuck this day is, Friday. And with that, I'm out. Peace.